Just gonna give it a few minutes here, make sure internet stuff's all good after our power outage. Give it 30 seconds, then we'll hit this sucker. Nip it in the bud, so to speak. And I'm going to bed, but I gotta hit this live. It's come up. I want to go through it because it's getting really big, and a lot of people keep asking me wanting to post, and I don't post it. So we're gonna go through why there's a whole other side to this whole ostrich thing that Canadians clearly don't understand. Okay, people log on. So everybody, this is all about the ostriches. A huge outpouring of Canadians going to BC. A lot of folks I know from COVID, and it's actually frankly shocking to me. I know I like my rock t-shirts, but the truth is I grew up in rural Alberta, family heavy into farming. Many of my family members, my generation of siblings, we all had some kind of turn in that. We were all involved in it. None of us went on to farm, but like I said, our parents' generation, some cousins, I have lots of cousins in Alberta, beef, cattle, bison, pork, hogs, chickens, all of it. Some even sheep. That wasn't really big in our family. But there's one thing about it, nobody got into ostriches. And this is a real serious issue here, folks. I did grow up in a small rural community where one family I knew of in that farming community did raise emus, ostriches. And here's the thing that Canadians don't understand. Now, America, even America, doesn't have a huge ostrich system. Yes, proportionally, it's 10 times that, the size of Canada, 10 times the population. Real small niche market. I have no problems with it, because when you look at the United States of America, everybody, the states that do ostrich farming, the states that have that, are all dry, arid, hot locations. I'm going to tell you about ostriches. They're not native to North America. I don't know if people don't know that. They're from Africa. That's where they originate from. Now, yes, it's true. During the penal colonial times of Australia, emus were imported there. From where? Africa. And why did it work out well in Australia? Well, in the center of Australia, perfect climate for things like ostriches and even Burmese pythons, where you can find water systems. Perfect. These two go hand in hand in those style of climates, as long as you get the wet, not the arid. These guys live in the arid. They have specialized air sacs, more than you see a dog or many animals are domestic in North America. These specialized air sacs are for cooling. These birds can exist easily up to 56 degrees Celsius. Their lower temperatures are 24 degrees Celsius. So, we run at 21 degrees Celsius. We're in an Arctic climate. It's not a place for ostriches. You have to have special indoor heating systems. And frankly, we all know this as Canadians. You're not averaging a system of 24 degrees Celsius for these particular birds 7 days a week, 12 months a year. Canadians aren't capable of doing that. Now, all of those arid states, yes, they're very well capable and suited for doing that. Why do I get into that? These birds have specific vaccination schedules, both in the United States and Canada. However, Canada has another problem, because it can't keep the temperature of these birds up. We know we have winter, even in BC. Even in BC, it does not maintain nowhere near 24 degrees Celsius for a climate for these birds all winter long. It doesn't anywhere in Canada. That is a myth. There's no such thing as a at least 24 degree system for these particular birds who exist at that. Their body temperatures run very much higher than ours. There's acidic urine of their systems. It's like a gel. It helps control water. They're more like a camel than anything else that relates to Canada. There's no other animal native to Canada that has any of these specialized systems. We brought it here from the Commonwealth. That's why it's here. British Columbia. I know it's even in Alberta. I know it's all through Ontario too. But these birds are not native, not developed for our climate. And because of that, and because you can't keep the temperatures up, folks, what is a cold? Why do we call it a cold? Oh, geez, I caught a cold. And that happens because you can't keep your temperature at a good rate. Now, these birds get vaccinated in Canada, but there's no vaccination for the avian flu. These are African diseases. Burmese pythons, everybody, come with a multitude of diseases. They even develop too. They're not native to Florida Everglades. Caused a whole bunch of problems. Not only eating all the wildlife, causing disease in all the other reptiles and the fish. Killed off whole species. Now, when we look at Canada and USA, it's a commercial system that people like the meat. They like the white meat, and they're a hardy bird. But the reality is, if you can't keep these temperatures and you can't go with the standard vaccine schedules, because there is no vaccine to cure some of these diseases, and then you want to continue on in your Arctic environment for a creature that's not built for your climate. It's not. The energy going into them, if you were to maintain that, and we know they don't. And unfortunately, they get, like any other species of creature, their version of a cold, because they can't keep their body temperatures to where they're supposed to be, because they're not built to do that for Canada. Again, you want to look at the states who do ostrich farming. Kansas, Arizona. You ever been to Arizona? Nevada, even though I don't think Nevada has really any, but they could. California, of course. Florida, no way. No way. Kansas, Idaho, and the areas that they do that in are all very arid, dry plains, arid temperatures. You're not going to see anywhere near minus. Maybe they can't get to the 24 guaranteed all year round, but pretty close, and the birds can stay huddled together. You can put them in keeps, and they're fine. This really isn't possible in Canada, and these birds are absolutely at risk in Canada. The market is tiny. I think a total of maybe 30,000 of these birds in Canada, which really makes no sense when I look at poultry, chicken, turkey, all of that, that there's no real reason for it other than our colonial attachments. And what I really find funny about all the protesters, I understand pro-vax and anti-vax. In this case, you don't want to have to worry about vaccinating these two species because they shouldn't really even be here. And if they do come out with that vaccine, you're going to be eating it. You're going to be eating the vaccine because it will be mandated both in the United States and in Canada. I mean, we're not going to, in Canada, I don't think we have to worry about Burmese pythons. But if you ever want to look at the tragedy tale of the tape, go look at Burmese in Florida. They're absolute after that. No more invasive species. And every year they hunt these things down, they get rid of them, and it's still problematic. Now, emus, ostriches will never be something that's going to make it out in the wild generally in Canada. But the reality is the diseases they can develop quite easily in Canada because they're always in that cold state. It's not out of the realm of normal. Then the heating components put in and putting trust into people. This is what I mean. So they're going to destroy these birds, and then people are, what are you fighting for? Because the reality is, and again, it's not to be mean, this isn't a species of Canada. It's not even a domestic animal that naturally you could farm here. Naturally, taking away all of your special equipment and medical injections, these creatures wouldn't make a go here. And I think that's what Canadians don't understand. And what really bothers me, and I've kind of kept my mouth quiet about it, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to get into it because it's always anti-vax versus pro-vax. But if you're a person, a Canadian, who really doesn't like vaccines and doesn't like that idea, by you fighting for ostriches, you're putting that reality on dinner plates across Canada. Eventually, if this protest works, they will come up with a vaccine for these birds, and because their temperatures have to run so high and they can't keep them that high in Canada, because again, why? They don't belong in an Arctic climate. They don't. They're like camels. Their blood runs way higher than ours, most mammals, other than other desert mammals. But they're the highest of birds, one of the highest for sure. And I don't think Canadians appreciate that or bother to look into it. But the reality is that that's what we're going to face here if these things are kept. Like, it makes sense in the United States. It really does. What Texas has got going on, Arizona, California, there is no argument for me. These temperatures meet the bird's natural state, the bird's height and temperature. They're not going to get sick. In Canada, they're most definitely always going to be a risk of illness. And with that illness comes all the problems of other foreign flus that are of this bird that can migrate into our birds. Next thing you know, there's no Canada geese, there's no chickens, there's no turkey. Like, it amazes me, right? My daughter is so adept at this stuff. She loves fish, reptiles. I got my girls into all that when they're young. They both took a shine to it. Bugs, reptiles, fish, all kinds of creatures. They love animals, and they got right into it. But they know reptiles, and they know all the diseases and all these things I didn't even ever dream of. And then it was my daughter teaching me about Burmese pythons, not only about them eating everything, but killing entire species off through parasitic infections and disease. Because why? This thing doesn't belong in the Florida Everglades. Everything that's there never had that in its environment. And folks, you know, you go to Florida, they will tell you all about this, or you go online, you'll learn all about this cruel, sad history. There's species of creatures, from birds to mammals to reptiles, that no longer exist just because of the diseases of this guy, because it's a foreign invasive species. Those species didn't ever genetically grow in the environment with those creatures, isolated by like mega climate and continental space, brought, and it was a bad idea. Now, ostriches may not be capable of becoming an invasive species, but disease is quite capable. Again, why? Because of our climate. I know I'm repeating myself here, but it's important for people to look at the truth of it. You can look it up yourself. No one's going to deny this. These guys are desert creatures, not meant to be Arctic creatures. You bring that in, you bring in more risks. You tell the government, who's laughing, jiggling their fly, saying, oh goody, let's have a big protest, and then soon we can get money and fund for more vaccines to put in your food from things that don't belong here. Now, buying meat from USA, for example, those southern states, it's probably okay. But here, do you really know? I mean, it's okay if you cook things. I eat wild meat all the time. I used to hunt quite a bit out in Alberta for big game. And I did that. A lot of people don't like that, but I do that. But this is a whole different thing, and nobody's looking at that. And these are the same folks, largely, that don't like the big pharma, don't like any of that stuff, and they were fighting for the other cause. This is a cause that falls in the pro-vaccine camp. These birds are loaded with vaccines and drugs. They are. They have to be, or they don't make it in Canada. Even more so than the United States. And this is what you want? Why? Why? Why force something? Is it because of our colonial heritage, that because it exists out in the colonial world, we bring it to Canada, we market it here? And I mean, I get people have farms and this stuff, but again, how much energy are you putting in to keep these guys 12 months a year at 24 degrees? I don't see the viability of that even in British Columbia. And yes, I know there's palm trees in British Columbia, but their growth rates are nowhere near other places in the world. And even still, you're nowhere near that desert climate. I know that. I've been there. I've been there where the palm trees are, where it's only, I've seen it -2 or as cold as +5, but the wind's blowing 100 miles an hour across the cold ocean, and from the mountains, you freeze. And I know Ontario understands that too with the Great Lake, but these guys aren't meant for it. And they're susceptible to sickness. And then that sickness is foreign to our birds. And we don't want that out. We don't want to ruin our much larger poultry, our much larger turkey. And it goes on and on. I mean, why? Why? Partridge. I mean, we can go on to all kinds of wild birds too. Why? Why would you want that risk? Right? That's my video. I hope people share it out. Maybe people will, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be angry. Maybe ostrich farmers will be angry. But this really is truth. And again, it's always the states with the common sense. Look at the states who have ostrich farms and look at the ones that don't. They don't even question it. They don't. Not a place for ostriches. Why would you put that much energy into those birds? Why do you want that much drug-induced bird? Why? Why? But yet Canada, and you can look at what the schedules are. These guys get boosters like you wouldn't believe. 6 months boosters, every 6 months till they're dead or harvested. That's the truth. It amazes me that people are protesting this or saying, like, call the birds. And you know what? It's time to look at, unless we're building vaccines, and that's what everybody wants, which I don't think a lot of folks do, and I still don't understand why they're protesting. Again, look at their body temperatures and what their minimum temperature is to sustain their lives. Much higher than even us human beings. Right? You can say, oh, you can clothe them, you can have a heated pen, and you know what? I know how it is. I've been involved in farming. The birds are running outside in the snow, all of it, right? The cold rain, the freezing. I know. I'm not a dummy. People, you got to clean out pens, and people always treat you like you're stupid. And it's like, I've been involved in farming in all avenues of it. So don't try it. Don't try it. They're big birds too. But that's the truth. And you won't find any northern states, but yet you jump over the parallel. Then you go even further, like you're in Arctic and you're running these birds, and it's like, but none of the northern states do that, let alone any untemperate for these bird states. They don't do it. There's only a handful. And again, look at their climate, suited for these birds. Australia, suited for these birds. You have an argument there. Canada, this is bullshit. That's, I'm sorry, not to be mean to those particular farmers, but the energy you're putting into the birds doesn't match the output. And that's why we have poultry native to our climate, and we stick with that. That's my video. You choose to share, but if you were fighting on the side of anti-vax, well, now you've transitioned yourself to pro-vax, whether you knew that or not, because that's where that is going. It's already been there. Boosters every 6 months. And you're fighting to eat that. But what do I know? That's my video. Share. Get out there.